Greetings to my team of 144, all Starseeds, Lightworkers, and Wayshowers. Today is 6/10/2019, a 10/10 portal. Many energies coming into the field today. Yesterday was a big day for the codes coming in from our higher self, from the Galactic Central Sun. A couple people on my team contacted me with some intense experiences of bringing these codes in, being the witness, and awakening from this dream of the Matrix. Yesterday afternoon also, and real quick, this is just a quick intro. I'm just giving you a quick update, and then the rest of this video will be an interview I had last night on Deep Disclosure Radio with M and Miss M from Sedona, and they have a big event coming up. It is on July 5th through the 7th, and there's a link on the website, primedisclosure.com. Just click on 7th seal at the top. Many Lightworkers are gathering on this auspicious days, and we had a great conversation last night. Sorry, with the recording, I know the others on the show had a little bit of an echo because I should have wore headphones, but I did the best I can, and I was in the wind state last night, so I did most of the talking anyways. But I appreciate M and Miss M, all they're doing for humanity and all of life through all realms with the work they're doing. So yesterday afternoon, one of the experiences I had, I went into a deep stillness, and it was this void state where I became paralyzed for about a half hour as I was bringing in the codes. I was fluctuating in between worlds, between this side, the other side, and the deeper states, and the codes started coming in through my visual cortex, through visions. And also, I felt my brain pulsating. It was like my heartbeat. I felt like my heartbeat in my brain. It was very intense energies and very fiery. I felt like I was on fire. So that feeling of the fires coming in, and also through the collective and through Gaia, it's manifesting with these big heat waves. I know India has been experiencing several days of massive heat. The West Coast is supposed to be experiencing a heat wave, and through the equatorial ranges, south, in the south, in Mexico and southern United States, they're having some heat waves coming in too. So this fire is coming in, the collective, the divine fires, the fire of the masculine and the waters, lots and lots of waters of the divine feminine, with all the flooding going on and the rising of the levels of the waters and the rains, as the rains are washing away the old false self, the old false matrix. So many of us are feeling this in many ways. So we have many portals opening, many waves of energy coming in, the cosmic rays, the Schumann resonance is raising, and all this is leading up to the solstice, the summer solstice on June 21st, the sun stillness, where it reaches the furthest north on the Tropic of Cancer. And then it starts heading south again towards the equator, or the equatorial region, which will be the autumnal equinox, the equinox in between the two solstices, the summer and the winter solstice. So this is going to be a massive blast, a massive wave coming in, which will lead us to the July 4th portal and into the August 15th through the 8/8 Lion's Gate, and the Lyran energies are coming through strongly now. In my next transmission, it will be from the Lyran Nation. and there's a couple other updates. But for now, I'll just play the interview from last night from deepdisclosure.com with Miss M and John from Sedona. So it's the four of us having a conversation. So enjoy, have a beautiful and blessed day, beloved beings of light. Namaste.
We got started a little late, as usual.
And I think we can also ask the same question of Paul. I've always had a great affinity for moon phases. I've always used moon phases to manifest, set my intentions on a new moon, and watch for completion, signs of manifestation on a full moon. But we were also asking the general consensus of how the eclipses and solstices, coupled along with the multiple alignments that can occur. You know, you can have astrological angles on these dates. There's so many factors for what can cause transformation. You know, the Silver Gate alignment to the central sun coupled with an eclipse or coupled with a grand cross. Each one of these things has a profound effect on the energies we're going to be feeling. So with that, we have our guest joining us. Paul, welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. So we did a brief introductional bio for you. It sounds like you've been on your path for quite a while.
Yeah, at least 30 years plus. Being in spatial time now, linear time doesn't really make much sense anymore, as you know. So, but at least 30 years in this avatar, in this story. I started in the traditional arts of Zen Buddhism, and over the years trained with many masters and teachers from Qigong to Neigong and yoga, Hinduism, and I teach a Taoist path now called Kunlun, Kunlun, which is a water path. It's a healing path. Now with the divine feminine energies coming in, we need the healing waters, because we've been in many years of fire, the masculine, the palpacy. So we're balancing the energies with the divine masculine, the divine feminine coming into the field now.
Oh, but certainly. Well, that's a long time. I haven't met too many people that have been on the path for that long. Myself, it's been some 33 plus years as well. So this is awesome. So I know that you do a YouTube channel and you update people on what they can anticipate, things that are going on. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, basically, my channel focuses on this ascension process, the ascension of Gaia, along with the ascension of humanity from an individual level into the collective. And part of the path is, the rainbow body path, which is full awakening. And I teach in art, in Neigong art, but I can't do that through social media. I do that in private and locally. But I transmit anything that's coming through my consciousness on that day, and then things that are happening collectively, celestially, multidimensionally on that day. And then basically I step aside, and part of the transmission of the day is what just comes through my heart center, which we call a Dharma talk. In Buddhism, they say Dharma, which is truth, speaking your truth. So in that moment, I step aside and let my higher self or source energies come through as best as I can in that moment.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's definitely the deepening of the path there.
Hi, Paul. This is Megan.
Hi, Megan.
Nice to meet you.
Is this Miss M?
This is Miss M,
okay.
yeah.
I didn't know your real name, but I wanted from myself and my team of 144 in the celestial realm and the earthly realm. we all wanted to thank you and M and Tolik and Shakina Rose for all the work that you're doing for humanity. And I just want you to know that you're all appreciated through all levels of realms and realities and what you're doing here in this great time of transformation and the ascension. So I appreciate you all. Namaste.
Oh, well, thank you so much for saying that. And we appreciate you too, because we're all in this together. And
definitely.
It doesn't happen without all of our collective consciousness and belief manifesting the reality that we all want to see. And so I was wondering if perhaps you could share some of the messages that you're receiving. What's coming through? What are they talking about?
Yeah, so currently, I mean, it changes day by day, but there's obviously many of us are experiencing these massive waves of energy coming in. And part of this process of ascension is what I'm calling right now is Operation Breakthrough, where we're breaking through the veil, the illusion, the separation programming, and we are now living in what we call unity consciousness. So as each individual awakens and transforms ourselves on a more of a celestial level, it's going out into the grid, into the field to uplift all of humanity. So part of this process is the shift, or the evolutionary leap. We've been calling it from basically Homo sapien to what is being called Homo luminous, which is light body. And that's basically the rainbow body. You know, my Sifu is a rainbow body master. He's actually pretty close to y'all in National Forest, probably about a half hour from Sedona. And I was out there a few years ago training with him. It was in like Montezuma, Rimrock. I don't know if you all know where that is, but
yeah, friends there.
So, and we've had some pretty crazy experiences out at the well there.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It's actually been said to be high UFO activity out there, one of the highest in the nation in Camp Verde.
Yeah. So this, what we're calling, also I would, on the way here, all these synchronicities keep happening. I'm sure you all experience it, all your listeners and most people that listen, but on the way in, my speedometer said 2,022 or 20,022 miles on my car, and then a hawk flew over the front of me and was guiding me to this mission here tonight. So so part of the, as each individual awakens, because over thousands of years, there's been many rainbow body masters. One of the most famous is Guru Rinpoche. I'm sure you've all heard of him from Tibet, where he was basically rainbow body is alchemy. For any listener that hasn't heard of rainbow body, and every spiritual tradition had their own form, like the Egyptian, the body of Ra, they called indestructible diamond body. In Buddhism, the coat of many colors in the Essenes, and we call, in our path, the Taoist art Kunlun, gold dragon body, which is a returnable rainbow body. Because when a master attains rainbow body, it's basically the concept of converting lead to gold, which is converting the physical back to the light body, which is raising the frequency of the atomic cellular DNA structure into those higher frequency, which is closer to sound. So the master will, when the disciple experiences it, they see the rainbow emanation from what we call the three dantians, which are basically like the chakras. There's a lower dantian, which is the belly, the middle, the heart, and then the upper dantian for the spirit, which is past, present, future, body, mind, spirit. Basically like the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, but it's more of the divine feminine, masculine, and then the spirit, what the Christians would call the Holy Spirit, or we call the Great Mystery. So as each oh, go ahead.
Well, I think I was going to add how profound it is that they're all similar, just with different names.
Yeah, because all paths lead to the same source. So depending on what we call it, like the Zen Buddhists say, these words are just fingers pointing to the moon. They're concepts that help us guide us to our true self, source, God, the Tao, Buddha, whatever name we give to our highest self, our true self, or original mind. In Zen Buddhism, they call it the unborn mind of Buddha, which is pure awareness. So people tend to sit and focus on the finger, the concepts, and debate and duke it out, when the Zen master says just follow where their fingers point, and you look at the moon and then you become enlightened or awakened, which basically all these teachings are to guide us into that still center. Do you know Walter Russell? He wrote The Secret of Light.
I'm not familiar.
Me either.
I've heard of it, but
he was a genius and one of the world's greatest artists, philosophers, engineers. He had like a third grade education, but he had an awakening as a child, and then he went through a death experience. He had got the plague or something, and he merged himself with the cosmic consciousness, or God consciousness, Christ consciousness, and then came back to teach. And he taught from a Christian perspective, but he would say that God is the still white magnetic light at the center of all things. It's still because everything moves around that center, but that center is everywhere. And it's white because all colors, that one white light manifests as the electromagnetic spectrum. But as you return to that white light, and then there's obviously beyond that white light, which is sound, and then void, yin yang, masculine, feminine, and then to the unknowable source, which we call the great mystery. A lot of the Native American traditions called it the great mystery, and a lot of the Taoist teachings, the way, the Tao means the way in from Chinese, and it's the way in, the way to the kingdom of heaven within your still center, that's still white, and it's magnetic because it pulls you in. And it's basically just another word for 0 point energy, or infinite energy in 1 point. So he would teach, The Secret of Light is a great book. He would teach how that one light can manifest into the 10,000 things, we call it, and creates the simulation of motion based on the quantum field, where everything's fluctuating between emptiness and form. And in Buddhism, there's the Heart Sutra from Kuan Yin, or Avalokitesvara, where she saw that the 5 skandhas, the 5 senses, are empty. And basically it's, what are you with no mind, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no seeing, no thinking? What remains when you remove all the senses? And that's that pure awareness. And then Zen Master Benkai would say that all beings are born perfectly awakened Buddhas, but that pure awareness is converted to the 3 hells, which is the angry demon, the frightened animal, and the hungry ghost. But in essence, every being is that pure awareness. In essence, our true essence.
Definitely.
And that's what everyone's realizing. That's our true self, is that everyone is one with Source. There is no separation, and that's part of our mission, is to teach humanity that the separation is a programming of the false matrix. And one of my teachers, one guru from the Hindu, Kriya Yoga, he would say that, the matrika, matrix actually means divine water. Trix, or trike, meant divinity, sacred, divine, and ma, as you probably know, is usually symbolized water, like the Virgin Mary, marine. And then Ba, like Babylon, Baba, in Arabic is father or fire, like Babylon, Baba is father. And then that word evolved into Papa, into the Italian, the Latin, and that, which is like Palpacy, the father, and Baba, so we have the water and the fire. We say Kan and Li. Kan is water in Chinese, Li is fire. So part of our path is to balance the two, the fire and the water, through the 5 elements.
Yeah, that certainly sort of resembles the balancing of the mind and the heart.
Yeah. Yeah, because in Chinese, in the Asian arts, the mind is the heart. Like the lower dantian, the stomach, the body, or we call qi gong. The middle is the heart mind, which is neigong, and that's the art that I teach. And I'm trained in the upper dantian for the spirit, which is the future. The full manifestation, the omega point, is what they call Shen Gong. And Shen is basically translated as spirit, divinity, sacred. So we bring all three dantians together into the now, into that still point, so that we can transmit our true self, which is love, truth, the light of the source, out into this realm to help uplift all of humanity. And that's what we're all doing on this ascension mission, is bringing in our light to help those that are lost or still trapped in the dark, and those that are going through this ascension with all these ascension symptoms, to basically let people know, because the Lightworkers, the Starseeds, are scattered all over this realm to bring their codes into the grid wherever they're located. But many of them feel alone or in solitude. I say, people say solitary confinement. I've converted that to solitary refinement. That's the time of refining, is when you're alone and with your true self, and going in within meditation, finding that still point, or going within that to find the kingdom of heaven within, which we find when we become very still and silent the minds, still the body, and use the breath to help carry us deeper and deeper within ourself, to return to that home, to the original self, to that pure awareness. And then we transmit that out through our 0 point energy, and connect with my Sifu's Navajo teacher. He was in the Red Willow Society. He's also a Mongolian shaman of the Blue Wolf clan. And his teacher would say that we're not even real human beings yet, that we're in the process of becoming real humans, which means living from the heart, which means being connected to all things. And that's part of this transformation, this ascension that we're going through, to return to that homo luminous, light body. And that's the 12-strand crystalline DNA, which is awakening. And I'm seeing it because the double strand is the 64 code of the matrix. The 64 codes or codons, which I see envisions that transforming to the 12 codes and the 12 strands, which makes it the 144, which is what people call the upgrade.
Wow, very deep. So, hey, Paul, I'm a Reiki master instructor myself, which is an ancient Tibetan Buddhist healing modality. Yes. With the Macau Yasui school. And I know when I went through my attunements, they were incredibly powerful, but you're basically getting drugged through the meat grinder. I was basically broken down in my simplest form and then rebuilt through the modality of Macau Yasui Reiki. And it's part of the process. And it's almost shamanistic in many ways also. And I was researching today Reiki and shamanism, and there's actually shamanistic Reiki. I was curious, when you've gone through, and we're all still going through our ascension process, did you go through a rebuilding time period? And how are you more powerful because of it?
And that was part of my process. And over 30 years, you go through these cycles, mm-hmm. and we're all going through it. The Kali Yuga, the 144,000 years cycles. But that's what took me to the different traditions through the Zen Buddhism, because like many starseeds, we went through great trauma as children to transform and to go deeper within, because like the Guru says, the great suffering brings you closer to God. Not that you need to suffer to awaken, but it seems like in this realm, this matrix, it's easy to get pulled into things like the drama and the programming that take you outside yourself. I call them distractions. not that there's anything wrong or bad about them, but sometimes we call it the dark night of the soul. I mean, most people have gone through that, and that's part of the breakdown process is when we go through the traumas and the sufferings and the breakdown of consciousness. And I've been through many. Like I joke with people because you hear some gurus and masters say after I had this dark night of the soul 10 years ago, and then I awoke and I said, that's pretty nice. I had to go through hundreds, which many of us have. But like my Sifu says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So in that process, I mean, most people don't train in the Shen Gong. I've gone through the training through the Mao Shan and the Kunlun, and I don't teach it because I'm not allowed to teach the Shen Gong until I would attain rainbow body or full awakening. And so the Nei Gong is the middle path, which that's like in Zen Buddhism, they say the middle path because that's the path with heart. And like Carlos Castaneda's teacher, Don Juan, he would talk about the warrior living the path with heart, which means living your passion, living your mission, and living from the spirit. And as you all know, the Matrix tries to break that spirit down. You know, it's like the spirit of the wild horse. So in this, when I would go through a dark night of soul, I would seek out a teacher. And even after several years of training with 4 Zen masters, you think, okay, I'm good to go. You know, I trained with Kongo Roshi, where Kongo means diamond in Japanese, and Sensei Ogoi and Daido Roshi. And even after several years of training with them, feeling like, okay, you've reached this Satori point, sometimes you get pulled back in the Matrix and get body slammed back into the into the earth to say, no, you still have some work to do, and they're all lessons, and it's part of the process. And even 30 years of training, some days, like earlier today, is in the 9-9 portal, as the codes were coming in, it was a very fire. I felt like in a moment that I was in fire, and part of this cleansing is the fires coming in, the phoenix rising. So we have the phoenix and the dragon energies coming in. And in the Asian arts, the phoenix, the feminine, divine feminine, dragon, the divine masculine. Not that we get stuck with the filters, but just as a grounding point into the field, we use these symbols to, to speak to the psyche, or just like mythology speaks to your true self. It transcends the filters of the internal map of reality. And in Zen Buddhism, they use what's called koans, Koans, which were basically old stories of the ancient masters that would transmit through the stories that you work on in meditation. So part of the process was we went through many breakdowns and rebuilding. I'm trying to keep linear here. Trying to stay linear with the story, but because I know many people are experiencing that feeling of breaking down, that feeling of feeling like they're going crazy, because I get that through many messages through my YouTube channel and Facebook, and we call it crazy wisdom, and it's part of that as that internal map of reality goes into like a higher resonance, or what some people call like chaotic node. It's like the laws of thermodynamics where it reassembles at a higher level. So as we're going through this type of chaotic node, I think Tom Kenyon was calling it the chaotic node, where systems are breaking down, and they're breaking down at an accelerated rate, which we're seeing in the field of the collective through politics and religions and all these things, because we're going through it on an individual level and it's affecting the collective. That's part of the rebirthing process. When you break down, it's like all these fires that are happening and this heat waves, and as Gaia's shifting, the waters are coming down. It's kind of, I was explaining the other day, these massive fires in Canada, and then in the south we have these volcanoes in Mexico, but in the middle, North America, there's over, I think, 400 rivers flooding. Lake Erie by me, they're saying it's the highest levels they've ever recorded, and and that's the divine feminine with the divine masculine coming in. So we're all experiencing these on our own individual levels through our own processing of these codes, this information, as our physical body is being recoded, upgraded, uplifted. So I know for many it's a very uncomfortable feelings of anxieties and pressures. It's almost like a compression. But what I try to tell people is that we're in this process of breaking free of that chrysalis or the cocoon, and in that process, it's that birthing. It can be painful, it can be very intense, but we're right on the verge of the collective expansion, or it's like the supernova that implodes into its own singularity and then explodes with this infinite energy out to the ends of the universe. And that's kind of symbolic of what the individual goes through. And then also we're dealing with the last of the dark energies that are remaining, because through this process we say love has won, but people say, well, why is there still starvation, and why are these reptilians or the archons still targeting and going at, and it's because what's left, I call the residual, they have their claws dug in, and as you all know, they're not going to give up that easy, and they're targeting the highest angelic beings, the highest light workers. So many people feel part of that process, and these purging that we're going through, it's a releasing and letting go of that old false 3D matrix, but what's left of the reptilian energy, or what people call evil, or the archonic energy, they're still trying to hold on to that old system. So they're doing everything in their power to take people out of the heart, to distract them, to bring, to take them out of the presence of their true self. But their time is up. They know it. So we're right on the verge of this breakthrough, which I tell people, people say, we're in the 11th hour. I say, no, it's about 11:59 and 59 seconds. So it's ready to implode and explode, and that's what people call the event, or which we all know the event energies are coming in. But until we make that quantum leap, which we're right on the verge from Homo sapien to Homo luminous, it's some of the most challenging times, I think, throughout history. And through this shift, our people's nervous systems are getting more sensitive, because that's that magnetic light at the center. It's saying the only way out is within, so you can't mask it with these drugs and people self-medicating so that they don't have to feel those energies. And it doesn't matter what we do and what we practice, we're going to feel it. So I just want people to know that we're all going through it still. We're going through what's left of the darkest, deepest negative energies for all of humanity.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's amazing.
It's funny because before you got on, we were talking about some of the updates coming in from our galactic friends, and one of the things they said recently was that and it was weird because they said that they're now predicting 4 more massive waves before the final big event, and the timeline around it keeps shifting. So I think that there is something about us and the consciousness that is contributing to the moving of that timeline.
Yeah, they also said one more push. They also use terminology like breakthrough. So they're definitely reading it that it's extremely close, but I would concur. It could be right now with tipping the scale of more consciousness. So it is an interesting moving target.
Exactly, and we're jumping multiple timelines now to merge them all into this one, and that's why all the star nations are coming here, because this is kind of like the hub of the collective and infinite multidimensional timelines, that as we jump to these different timelines, and the event is now, but it's in a different timeline, but we're bringing it into this timeline. So that's why many of us are jumping into many people are experiencing this in different ways, with this, it's collectively being seen as like the Mandela effect, which I'm sure you all have seen and heard and experienced that. But we're bringing all these together into what we're also calling the Omega point, the Alpha and the Omega, which is the final leap of the simulation into what we're calling New Earth or Paradise or the New Eden. But we don't have to fall back. We've been trapped in this cycle, this reincarnation cycle, this recycle system of energy, souls. This story that you see it throughout the collective over and over, where it's like trapped in this repeat. And that's what people say, this archonic recycle system. That's what the rainbow body is, to free you from. Because the ancient Taoists, they have a book called the Yi Ching, which is I and then Ching. I think the book's probably about 3,000 years old, and the guy that came up with binary code for computers got the concept from the Yi Ching, and it's yin and yang, which the 0 in binary is yin, feminine, emptiness. The 1 is yang, which is masculine and form. And then you also have space, the space between the code. So with 64 codes, there were 64 codes in the Yi Ching, and it meant it's been translated as the Book of Fortune or the Book of the Future. And then they realized, well, we have 64 codes in our DNA. Computers are 64-bit. You look at a chessboard, there's 64 squares, and it's black and white. It's yin and yang, because whoever invented it, which some people believe like it was a Masonic thing, because you see that symbolism throughout the Masons, and I think Benjamin Franklin had like the magic square of 64, because they found like with 64 and the flower of life, sacred geometry, I believe, is like 64 tetrahedrons. Nassim Haramein, I think, talks about that. And with 64 codes or 64 sequences, you can create basically infinite simulations based on 64 codes. So the 144 code, to me, is the breakthrough to infinite multidimensionality, to bring into the 3D matrix, where the 3D matrix is the foundation, it's the past, we're rooted deep into that, and that's the grounding. But our souls, our spirit, our energy bodies, I kind of use the analogy of like a lotus. A lotus is the sacred flower in the Buddhist arts and the Tibetan arts, but they say you need that mud. It's that mud, the dregs of society, the negative, the dark, that you root into, that false self, so that you can rise up into the light, through the waters or through the water. And then as you come out into the light, you blossom and bloom into the lotus. And that's what we're going through on individual levels, that awakening, that enlightenment, as we open the three dantians and bring them together to come into full blossom, full bloom, that makes it possible for all of humanity to be able to attain it. Because in the past, only certain people were even allowed to attain rainbow body, and my Sifu would say 1% every 100 years was even allowed, and that's part of the reason these secret societies, and not the negative secret societies like the Illuminati or what, but it seemed like the ancients, the masters, would create these little groups. For one, that a lot of them were persecuted and attacked, but they had to keep the teaching to a small number, because what they found, when you free yourself from the matrix or from this recycle system, it would send out a signal. And it's kind of like if someone escaped prison, what would they do? They would find how they escaped and make it more difficult for others to escape that prison. So that's why they kept it secret. But that experiment is over, or it's ending. We're at what people call the end times, or the rapture. But it's really to bring that cosmic consciousness, the Christ consciousness, the God consciousness, whatever we want to call that pure awareness, that our highest self, is we're bringing that into the realm so that all of humanity, and that's like the vow of the Bodhisattva, like Kuan Yin, that they would not become enlightened until all beings were awakened, or all beings are enlightened.
Hey, Paul. Of course, you are well versed in Zen, Tibetan Buddhism, yoga, Gnosticism, the medicine way, Taoist arts, and even Kunlun. But Kriya, I'm not familiar with Kriya. How would one define Kriya?
Kriya was, if you've ever, Paramahansa Yogananda, he wrote the book Autobiography of a Yogi. And he's it's a Hindu art, and they say that my Sifu also. I've done some training in Kriya. I never trained with a master, but I've trained through books, teachings, and there was one of the. I don't know if you've heard the awakened master called Babaji.
Absolutely. Edakhan Babaji, who just shows up in India at age 18, and they could not find him through genealogy any parents. So it was postulated and came from the stars.
And he's the one that started Kriya Yoga, and he transmitted it to several masters that were Paramahansa Yogananda's teachers, and one of them was Sri Yukteswar, and can't remember his other teacher's name, but Kriya is one of the highest arts in the yoga and the Hindu, which they have their own rainbow body practice, but basically the Kriya is a technique, is a teaching for awakening.
Okay, and so the ascension process, the great awakening of consciousness into the new earth, that's the present tense, so we're still going through it. How do you think that as a collective with Homo sapien on this planet, before we become Homo luminous, how do you think we're going? Are we at the right clip? Do we need to improve? Where can we improve on this ascension process?
Yeah, improvement to me is like another term for refinement. It's like, say you master an art, like you master guitar or painting. Once you become, and master to me, I think is not a good term, because it makes people think of this term of this final stage or that which is above. And I try to keep it around in this middle path because the ego has two faces. It's, people just think of being better than or more important, self-importance, but that's just one aspect. And then there's also the ego that's the I am, so it's not necessarily a bad or negative thing. The Zen master says, how do we end picking and choosing? And the Buddha said, in the heavens and on the earth, I alone am the world-honored one. Because in that oneness, in that, they say not two, or not a thing, which is mu, M-U, in that, then that separation programming ends and you reunite with your true self. But we're definitely in this process. We're very close, and we're on the right path. I want everyone to know that they are doing the best they can, and everyone's doing great work, and that because people want to think, am I doing enough? Am I not doing enough? And you're doing exactly as you need to do. The best thing we could do is go within our heart and to transmit as much love and truth into this realm, and to connect with as many beings in any way we can. But it doesn't matter if you're totally alone or if you're in groups of people, because everything each individual does affects the collective, and in the systems, and what I'm seeing, what's coming through my team, and through the celestial beings, the ascended masters, the guides, and all the gurus, is that we're right on the verge of what they call the tipping point, or critical mass, where enough people are awakening and living from their heart to where any moment, it could be a second from now, it could be 10 minutes, or it could be, I don't want to say years, because most people are, it's like the event is coming soon. People get annoyed and aggravated because it's like, for some people, that they've been hearing that for 20 years, But what I'm seeing in my team is that we're right on the verge, and in future tense, not that we're leaping beyond, we're becoming more spatial, we're releasing that linear time prison. But when humanity will look back at this date, they could say 2012 was the quantum leap. It doesn't matter, because once we merge into the now, all timelines, there is no past, present, and future. There's only now. So whenever that moment is, no one knows the exact time or date, but everyone's feeling that we're right on the verge of this massive breakthrough. Just like you can watch a supernova, and it's compressing. There's an expansion, like through all things. Walter Russell would say everything expands as a sphere and compresses as a square, just like sound emanates as a sphere, light emanates as a sphere, and then it comes back in a linear, so it's compressing this linear time that we've been going through for thousands of years. We've been compressing, and many people feel that compression in their body as like pain and their spine, their back, their brain. But as we go within, we're going without. It's kind of like when I teach the art, I'll transmit that you are the holographic universe. You are the whole universe. That's what a hologram. Each piece is the whole thing. Is a representation of the whole thing.
I think Rumi said you're not a drop in the ocean. You're the entire ocean in a drop.
Exactly, and you're both, because that's the paradox. That's the emptiness and the form. And I just lost train of my thought. It wants me to jump into spatial time.
Well, and one other way we're looking at this deeper is a little phrase where chanting, be in the business of being versus in the business of doing. The more we go into the deep inner silence, and allow our higher self to emerge, and not trying so hard, just being it, more is attracted into your manifestation vortex, opening your heart. There are a lot of simple ways to think about this too.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because in reality, in truth, everything is very simple. That pure awareness is as simple as the mind could possibly be. But thank you, because you brought me back to linear time here. And what I was going to say is that one of the things I teach, when you're sitting, because meditation is about the breath and going within, when you sit with your eyes open, you're looking from the center of your universe out into itself. And when your eyes are closed, you're looking from the outside in. And that's why when you get very still with your eyes closed, you'll start seeing the stars that are within your body, the celestial realms, and then you'll still see the great central sun, which is that still white magnetic light, which they call in science, the singularity at the center of the black hole. And like Nassim says, that singularity is everywhere. That 0 point is everywhere, but because our conscious, our individual consciousness came into this one point to look into itself, it appears as there's many. And in our perception, we are experiencing, because you and I are communicating, and we see many individuals in our field, but in truth, we are that one field. So we kind of fluctuate between that emptiness and form. When you go within, you experience that still center. When you go outside yourself, you experience what we call in Taoism the 10,000 things, which are the manifestation of the 5 elements from the yin yang, the masculine, feminine.
Okay, so I have some questions, and I think that anybody that is feeling or experiencing what is going on right now with all of the energy, I mean, it's not like anything I've experienced in my 35 years in this incarnation. So there's obviously something going on. There's obviously something shifting, and even these little Mandela effect things that are shifting the reality as we perceive it. And so it's clear that there's something going on and that we're moving, and there's a heightened energy around this time in history. But I have to think that this place exists for a reason. There's a reason why there's a physical plane. There's a reason why there's a third dimensional reality. And there's a reason why our souls chose to come here. So I'm aware that we are ascending in some format, some sense of that word. But what about, I don't know, what about people who maybe aren't ready? Are they just getting taken along for the ride because the planet's going regardless? Or what's your take on that?
Yeah, we're all along for the ride. That's why every individual, regardless if they know it or not, or if they're on the path. I mean, I get people from all over the world and all over the place coming to me. I still have a 3D business that I run, so I connect with hundreds and hundreds of people and communicate. And most people I connect with, regardless if most people don't know I teach a Taoist art or into these New Earth concepts, or what a lot of people call the New Age, because I take something from everything and create my own philosophy. So I try not to judge and live from that space. But I do believe that what we're doing is going to affect all of humanity, just like in the past when we went through the last major quantum leap of consciousness. And we call it consciousness, but it's also physical. You know, the physical... something was just coming through. So regardless if people know what they're going through or not, everyone's feeling it in some way or another. Like, I have people coming to me that never heard of the Ascension, and they have massive vertigo. My sister's in the hospital right now from vertigo and other crazy symptoms. And so it's like, regardless if they know the terminology or know what's going on, and people that come to me that talk, I don't care if they, why they come. If I have a technology company that with computers and that, and people come to get things fixed, and most of the time it leads to this ascension process. And I try the best I can to explain at a mundane level to people that don't know of these concepts or have any experience, and every time it resonates with the person. Like, they'll have questions. I don't care if they're Christian or Buddhist or atheist or whatever their belief system is. These concepts, because it's like every master in the past, every teacher, every messiah, whatever name we give to them, they taught the same concepts. That because truth is truth, you can't debate it, and the truth is coming out into this realm at such an accelerated rate that it's affecting all of consciousness. So just like the last quantum leap of consciousness, which they say evolutionary leap, which is just another word or concept for a mutation or a transformation from Homo erectus to Homo sapien. It wasn't like anyone sat there and thought, I want to evolve from one species to another. It happened, and no one knows if it was caused from the human aspect, or some scientists and philosophers believe that it's from the creator, from the source, through what we're experiencing is what people call cosmic rays, cosmic radiation, because they know that these energies coming in the cosmic rays, cosmic radiation can cause DNA to mutate or evolve. And if the source is from us, or if the source is from some seemingly external, because it's all one, it doesn't really matter, because the internal is the external and the external is the internal. So they kind of work together. What's going on within us is going on without us, outside of us. So as it comes in the collective, it's not going to be a choice like, hey, I want to evolve to Homo luminous. It's like, no, everyone goes along for that leap, because there's, after the evolutionary leap from Homo erectus to Homo sapien, you don't have Homo erectus still walking around,
By the way, I was wondering if you had exposure yet to the seventh seal symbol.
Yeah, I got a copy of from eBay. You're talking about the seventh seal that you produce,
right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, it definitely brought more codes, and I've slept under a copper pyramid for about 20 years, and I'm always surrounded by books. Like I started reading when I was about 3 years old, and I've read thousands of books. So my bedroom, I say, is like a microcosm of the Library of Alexandria, because I've always read, I've always surrounded myself, just as I would learn as much as I can. Like as a child, I would tell the Great Spirit that there's two things I want from life, like the truth and freedom. So the Spirit says, okay, I'm going to give you all that and see what you do with it. And that's what carried me through all these different spiritual practices and traditions, and led me to where we are today, led us to where we are, because that's like Paramahansa Yogananda said, no matter what your walk of life or where you are, every human being desires the same thing, which he would call eternal bliss consciousness, which means being in that state of bliss, joy, happiness for eternity, and being conscious of it. Because what good is bliss, happiness, joy if you're unconscious? It would be meaningless. And Miss M, should I call you Megan, or I'm just so used to Miss M?
Whatever you like. I have 5 sisters, so I'll answer to anything.
Okay. Yeah.
To me.
Yeah. So, okay. I don't know what I was just talking about, but and no, I some people say this guy's smoking some good marijuana. It's like, no, I don't drink, I don't smoke. Not that I'm against it, but tea is my medicine, so tea makes me spatial. I'm trained also in Gung Fu tea, or the Cha Dao. Cha is tea, and Dao, the way of tea, or the 5 elements of tea, and I do tea ceremonies, and we call it tea drunk, because we go through the 5 elements of tea that it uplifts the spirit and releases negative energy. So tea's infiltrated every culture on the just about every culture on the planet, and there's 140 different varieties from one plant. So it's a very mysterious and esoteric art, and the tea masters are very powerful. Like in China, they can give you tea and it'll make you feel like ice cold or burning hot, or make you laugh, make you cry, make you sneeze, any release. And our Sifu's a tea master, and my Qigong teacher and I went out to Mount Shasta when Sifu Max, and his Taoist name is Qing Feng Dao Shi, which means pure wind, man of the Tao. And he gave us some tea, and his divine goddess counterpart, Deanna Dao Shi, had to say, go out in the desert and come back in an hour. And as we were walking the desert, we were both like, man, it feels like we're walking on marshmallows. So it was a transmission, but I kind of joke, because when I become spatial, it might sound like I just had a shot, or a toke of some power plant, And I'm also Heoka, which means sacred clown in the Lakota.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm always listening to multiple conversations that are going on outside of this dimension, and so that's often very distracting.
Oh yeah, it can be for sure. Especially when you're trying to stay linear. It's like, this energy wants to come in, that one, this light code, that light code. But one of the things I was going to tell you was after the seventh seal, I was integrating different codes, and I know last month some intense energies were coming in. Today I felt that it was a fire energy, like I was on fire, and then I went into that still point, and it was like this massive pulse was coming in, and along with it were some of these higher codes, and it was like my brain, I could feel my heartbeat in they call Crystal Palace in the center of the brain, which is, where the pineal and the pituitary gland are located, and that's the still center of the upper dantian. So as it was coming in, these pulses were coming in, and the other night, myself and many others were experiencing the rainbow waves as the colors of the electromagnetic spectrum, these very vivid, vibrant colors. Within the colors were different codes and sacred geometry, and regardless if we know, like to me, I can't read the codes yet, but they're coming into our DNA so that we can learn these languages and learn the higher codes, which in the process is reprogramming our DNA to make us more aware of our multi-dimensional selves, our infinite multi-dimensional.
And what do you think about reprogramming the subconscious as well?
Yeah, and that's part of the process of some of the qi gongs. When you breathe in the qi and you store it in the lower dantian, then you can use that qi to reprogram the subconscious, or to tap into the law of attraction or the law of manifestation, and it has power behind it, because qi is really the energy, the power behind, we have qi flow. It's like the electrical current through our body.
Because one thing I've been thinking about lately is how, the seventh seal, sleeping with it, might be also reprogramming the subconsciousness, because, the first time I started doing it, some, like, unresolved fears came up, super vivid, lucid dreams that were right before you wake up, which is the time you're usually processing your subconscious, mind from the day before. And some intense stuff happened, and once I sort of cleared through that, then I began to have more codes and, just profound dreams and insights and anyway, so you tried sleeping with it too?
Oh yeah, I'll try anything once. No, but yeah, I was sleeping with it under my pillow for a few weeks. Now that you mention it, it disappeared. Oh no, I brought it here with me to work with it at my office. I came to my office, so I wasn't disturbed through this. But yeah, for multiple nights, I slept with it under the pyramid, and I definitely was getting transmission and taking in new codes. So I know that there is definitely a power behind the symbolism that is in that. And one night, and sometimes it could take days or weeks for the transmission to come into your field or into your consciousness. And that's part of this process. It's like, I try to tell people, you just keep, Sensei Ogoy would say, you keep going through and through and through, because the mind is going to try to talk you out of doing these any practices or experiencing these things on a deeper level. That's why most people in the practices, like in the Taoist arts, they never get to the Shen Gong level, because the Nei Gong is releasing the emotions. And a lot of times, what you were talking before, John, about the getting broken down and rebuilding. It's like most of us go through these massive shifts, and you think like doing these practices, life's going to get easier, and I'm going to have no problems, I'm not going to suffer anymore. And the thing is, it's as long as you're in a physical avatar in the 3D, you're going to experience like pain and conflict, but not that it has to cause suffering. But we're purging now for the collective, so no matter how much we've purged in the past, or to what we've gone through and what we released, what we're going through now, regardless of how intense or how subtle it is, we're purging now for the collective, and that's part of our mission, because we came here in service to humanity, to help serve humanity with our energy, with our love, with our light. Because to me, I don't care if anyone practiced a day in their life, I feel my connection to all beings, so I believe in the deepest part of my heart that all beings deserve to be freed, and they deserve to know love, and they deserve to be in peace and harmony. So I don't care. I'll take I'll practice to the deepest, darkest depths, and go through and through as deep of the darkness as I have to help all of humanity, through this great shift. And I know that's what you all are doing, and that's why I try to transmit as much love and light to everyone on our team. We're all on the same team. I say Team 144 because that's symbolic of the 144 code of infinite light. We say in the Shin Buddhism, which means pure land, which the Shin Buddhists in Japan, they had the vision of the pure land, which is New Earth in their tradition, and they practice a mantra, which was Namu Amida Butsu, which means I take refuge in the Buddha of infinite light and infinite life. And they believe, like, if you practice that mantra your whole life, you will be reborn into the pure land. Or you could be reborn now, but if you don't, upon the transition or the releasing of this vessel or avatar, that you would then be reborn into the pure land, which basically to them would guarantee awakening or enlightenment.
By the way, I'm going to insert here that we have one commercial break. I'm going to take a 5-minute break and hear from the sponsors. So, right back.
Namaste.
All right, I'll be right back. So I just stopped the recording. We got a couple of minutes. This has been really great, and when we come back in, we'll talk for a little while longer, and going with the flow, of course. So thanks for promoting the show, by the way, or the event conference.
Oh, definitely.
I think there's been like 260 people that have visited. I don't know how many bought. I have to look at the data from your promotion.
Did Dina from Colorado get a hold of you?
Did. I'm going to reach out to her. I read her email yesterday.
Yeah, I spoke a few hours on the phone with her the other night, and she's very interested, and she works with the Andromedans and bringing in the Magdalene codes, and she's very interested in you and Megan's teachings and the Seventh Seal event, so hopefully she'll be able to come to that event.
Yeah. The more the merrier.
For sure. So I've been holding, I've been kind of in a holding pattern here for, this last solstice on the 21st, 2018. Many people got body slammed like myself. To me, that was the final, breakdown, breakthrough as we're coming into the 815 harmonic convergence, which is coming up. But through this, through today and the solstice coming up, which I should probably save this until we start recording again. I'll stop for right now. But are you guys still there?
Yeah, we're still here.
Oh, okay.
All right,
I don't mean to be taking up the whole conversation. Of John, if you wanted to put anything out there before we end.
Go to his tour.
He had something to do. You take a quick break, okay?
Yeah.
All right, just a quick bathroom break.
Okay, I'm going to go make some more tea.
Okay.
So I know your event's on 7/5, right?
5, 6, 7.
Oh, okay, 5. Yeah, and that's, I know the 4th, a massive wave is supposed to be coming in. So I know that your event's going to be very auspicious.
Indeed.
A lot's going to come out. And I will be there in spirit. I just can't leave what my work here. And things amped up over the last few days. With the codes I'm grounding, the dark, they're putting up their last stand with, I've been working with certain energies, and they've been, a few days ago, they assassinated a couple Lightworkers on sacred ground to try and get under our skin. So I've been doing ceremony there and working with some of my students and grounding these codes. So, unless if I get the permission from my team, I won't be able to make this event. But I would love to come out sometime and visit you and M, and Miss M, Tolik, when I can.
Looking forward to it. Yeah.
Definitely.
I am back.
Okay, all right, let's go back. And hold on a minute.
Okay.
All right, and we're back. We have Paul here, and we've been having a deep conversation. John has had to go off on another magical mystery tour. And
Magical mystery tour.
Enlightening, and we definitely are pleased to have you, and also want to thank you for helping to promote the Seventh Seal Conference.
Definitely. For sure. It's going to be a great event for everyone that attends. Like I tell people, it's going to be an auspicious gathering of many Lightworkers and Starseeds to help bring in some of the highest codes into this realm. And that's what this whole process is about, as we anchor in these higher dimensional frequencies, codes, resonance into the field. And many people are experiencing it on one level with like the Schumann resonance, which is something I transmit in some of my recordings. So are we live again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Too, Schumann resonance is pretty profound at different times. It's spiking. Megan can often be like, "Oh, I bet it's up right now," and sure enough, it is.
Yeah. And I know, like, some people say the 5D is like around the 40, 60 hertz, which it's been staying longer and longer at that frequency. And for people that don't know, that are listening, the Schumann resonance is the resonance, the frequency the Earth emanates, it gives off, which is throughout history, or as long as they've been recording it, which has been, I think, since the 30s or 40s, I don't know. But it's generally around 7.8 hertz. And for the last, I think since the solstice, it's been spiking 80 hertz, 90. I think one day it went up to 100, but it's been holding at this 40 to 60 hertz. And it's just that's part of the preparation to be able to withstand what I call the Nawal, or the unknown. These unknown codes that are coming in. It's it's an entrainment process. It's, you know, because like Tesla said, everything is a resonance, everything is a frequency. And they know that the hippocampus of the brain, which is the doorway to our memories, resonates at the same frequency as the earth, the Schumann resonance. So I know, like my Sifu, he's a physicist. He talks about how certain astronauts would, I think Drunville talks about this too, Drunville Melchizedek, how in Russia these astronauts went outside the field of the resonance and their memories were wiped. And they basically came back, but they were vegetables. So after that, they, you know, say these beings, humans, go outside that field, they have a resonance, or a Schumann resonance box, which keeps the frequency. So I'm sure as these spikes happening, that's contributing to these Mandela effects and timeline jumps, because new memories are coming in, memories are changing. I mean, people are experiencing many different shifts.
That makes sense when you put into perspective the communication that's been coming through, is that the higher our frequency goes, the higher the vibration goes, the more of our higher self is being weaved into our physical form. And so if all of our collective memories are coded into our DNA, and then the hippocampus is allowing certain memories to be accessed as the vibration goes higher, we would be able to access more and more of our memory, and therefore more and more of the knowledge that we gained from those lifetimes, bringing us to just a higher consciousness within our 3D being.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of, you know, that code of 64. Within that code is infinite possibility. So in quantum physics, they talk about the multiverse, or that there's infinite universes. So there's I forget his name, Bert Goldman, I think. He studied quantum physics and hypnosis. He came up with a system called quantum jumping, where in the quantum physics it says you are everything, but it might be in a different timeline, a different universe, that you can jump to that universe to merge your energy to help accelerate whatever skill it is. You say you want to be a pianist or an artist, you can merge with that timeline where you already are a master of that art, and you can bring that energy with you. Not that you come back and you can play Beethoven or Mozart, but it accelerates your potential and speeds up your learning process, and makes it possible for, you know, to a lot of people when they take an art on. And I've been an artist most of my life too, since I started drawing when I was 3 or 4, and I do sculpting. I make the Mayan or the Peruvian whistling vessels in the past. Now I don't have much time. I do photography and painting and all that. So I know I've trained many people in many different arts, and because of the challenge of it, a lot of people give up before the fruits of their labor manifest. So that where you can merge with that self that mastered it, it helps push people beyond those boundaries, beyond the challenges, to then be able to keep on that path. So eventually we choose, even though all paths lead back to the same source, eventually you can experience all these different paths. Like I did the Buddhism, the shamanism, and I don't call myself a Buddhist, a shaman, a healer, because I'm nothing and everything. So I don't like to put myself in a box, because then people, if you're Buddhist, you can't be Christian. If you're, and then they put their belief system. So I say I'm everything and nothing, because I take something from everything. I learn from everything. And then create my own philosophy. But I chose the path of the Kunlun. It's a rainbow body path, and that's what I teach. But I still utilize all the other skills and lessons, and I learn something every day from people like yourselves and many other light workers that are putting out their transmission. But we only have so many hours in the day, so we're all doing the best we can, I just always live the philosophy not to waste time, because people say, how'd you accomplish this, that, and the other thing? It's because I put my whole spirit into it, and to, like the Zen master, they would say inch time foot gem, which means each moment is worth a priceless gem. And that's how we try to live our lives as warriors of light on the path of the heart and the path of spirit, that each moment is precious and beloved, and we try to live in that, the concept of power of now, living from the heart and letting go of everything else and just doing the best we can with what we have here. And also the art of acceptance, forgiveness, and gratitude are the most powerful tools that we can use to help with these ascension symptoms. And and the mind tries to take you out of that acceptance by going into the fear or the self-pity, and that's the other thing. The middle path is equal. There's no greater than, less than. We're equal to all things, each human being. Because through the dark that's still left, they're still trying to push this separation programming through the collective, through the media, through Hollywood, whatever tools the dark still are using, which that's going to end soon too. They're trying to keep people in that separation, just like the whole concept of different races and religion. It's like there's one race on this planet, the human race. Mm-hmm. So that concept where based on the color of your skin or your facial features, whatever, it's like, no, you're still a Homo sapien. There's one, that's the race, the Homo. So I've always seen all human beings, no matter what culture, what color, what creed, as a God being, as a being of light, as a being of truth, as a being of love, but that in the programming they came in the Matrix, that pure awareness and truth got converted to one of those hells, which is, the angry demon, the frightened animal, and the hungry ghost. And we all went through those, and that's part of that purging process. It's like to be compassionate, to understand, and to go beyond the separation. Most of us experience those things. Like, I went through years of the frightened animal, with PTSD and, being all this fear coming up constantly. But that's what made me seek out the Buddhist masters. And I did Sweat Lodge with the Ojibwe and went to the Dalai Lama. And, it kept pushing me to seek out these spiritual arts to help me get to where I need to be in these shifting days, this quantum shift that we're going through, this ascension.
Indeed. It's been a real pleasure, and the wisdom has been certainly appreciated. There's, so many roads and back roads and highways and byways to the summit. It's just fascinating that all these different traditions and teachings are so similar. And, that even many of us, too, have sort of just tuned into our own guides, and we've had similar, teachings brought to us. I like to say I was mentored by spirit, because I never did any of that, and yet, being taught about how to be more detached and holding on nowhere. And, of course, I've had the Ascended Master speaking to me, in my head, guiding me along the path. But it's so fascinating to understand that these ancient traditions, have the same information, just in different terminologies.
I would add this in what we've been talking about today and everything that we're going through is that, the planet is ascending and we're going along for the ride. That doesn't make it an easy ride or a smooth ride, and we get to decide how that's going to go. And so the more work we can do on letting go of the things that are holding us back, emotionally, physically, spiritually, the more we can embrace the act of being, and the more inner work we can do, the easier and more profound the ride is going to be. Because when you expand your consciousness, it comes along with an initiation, because you need to be able to handle the higher frequency. You have to get that balance and that centering in your emotional body so that the higher frequency can stay, or else it's going to knock you into a little bit of a tailspin. And every time that I expand my psychic abilities, I have to again learn how to find my center, how to not be triggered emotionally or energetically. It takes me a while to learn how to ride the new wave that I'm on. And so we're all going through that, and we're all riding these waves. Hopefully we're riding them and not getting pummeled by them. But the more that we can do and the more awareness we have about the process that we're going through, the easier it's going to be. And we volunteered to go first. We volunteered to be the brave souls that tried it first so that everyone else could have a clearer path to follow. And that definitely has been a challenge, but it's up to us now to turn around and offer a hand back to those that are following us down this path.
Well, that is well put.
Absolutely. And the concept of Gong Fu or Kung Fu means a great art that takes great effort to master. And I know a lot of people will not like to hear this, but the thing is, if it was easy, it would be boring. You know, we come in this realm for the challenge. It's like if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And the thing is, the mind, it's kind of like if you could pick up a guitar and play anything in the world, it would no longer challenge you, so you would tend to move on to something else. And part of this, the highest angelic beings heard the clarion call of Gaia, and they came for that calling. Even though if someone feels like they're the weakest being in this realm, or they're ready to give up, or ready to do whatever to get out of this realm, I just want people to know that you are one of the most powerful light beings that's ever existed in this realm, and that we're right on the precipice, and just not to give up and to keep going through and through and through. And that's why we came here, for this great challenge. And we knew it wasn't going to be easy. And like you said earlier, Megan, that what did you say? We've talked about a lot here, but yeah. These energies keep going in and out of my consciousness, so I'm trying to get back to. It'll come back to me
sometimes.
Yeah. And that's happening more and more for people. It's like you have this train of thought. You're like, okay, but one of these concepts that I talk about, because when the Taoist master, the Zen master awakens, they laugh into the sky because they realize that it's not real. That this manifestation it becomes like a cosmic joke. The thing is just most people don't get the punchline. It was like people have this great fear of death. I'm just going to tell a quick little story here. And, younger, I had this fear because I thought, even as a child, no one ever told me about it. But I knew it reincarnation. I knew it was real. I knew it existed. And no matter how much I suffered or was tortured or traumatized, and I wanted to leave this realm or try to leave it in any way possible, I had this inner knowing that it's like, if you do that or take yourself out of this matrix, then you're going to have to come back and do it again. And that's not a concept I push or promote, because I transcend the matrix, this false reality, what the masters will call Maya or illusion. and what now they're calling, the simulation in science, because it's, the only thing that's real never changes, and this reality. But one concept that offends some people is that, and there's always going to be people that, I mean, not always, but there's people out there that listen to, I try not to offend people as much as I can, but in these challenging times, we're seeing that it's not very difficult to offend people, especially if you're a president of a country, or but the I say this realm or illusion is for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah,
Good one.
that is true, and it's funny because that's one of the things too, is worrying about offending people or worrying how people are going to react to what it is you're doing or saying is part of the fear that keeps us trapped in this reality. And so I talked about this as like opting out of your contract. So let's say you're contracted to come here and incarnate here, and you decide that it's just too much and you want to check out early. You're just opting out of your contract, which is fine, because at the end of the day, there's nothing but unconditional love at source for you. So there's no wrong, right, good, or bad. It just is what is. But your soul is seeking a lesson, and if you opt out of the contract that it entered into to learn that lesson, it's just going to give you another contract to learn that lesson in. So opting out is not necessarily the best way to go, because you can't avoid the lessons that your soul needs to learn in order for you to rejoin source. So it's just a part of it. And then about the cosmic joke, I laugh about that too, because that's something that I have said for a while, and it came from, believe it or not, a comment when somebody left on one of our earlier deep disclosure videos, and it was a woman just saying, "Oh, I don't believe this Miss M. She's too giggly and light to have these things." And I just said, you know what? Enlightenment is a cosmic joke, and if you're not laughing, you're not getting it.
Exactly. Laughter is the greatest medicine.
Yeah.
That's why the Heoka is the most sacred deity with the Lakota. It's a sacred clown.
Yeah. It also helps you to shift your energy, honestly. Mm-hmm. Anytime you're taking something too seriously, which we as humans have a tendency to do quite a bit, if you can find, a path to your funny bone and laugh about it, it's the easiest way to transmit or transfuse or overcome any energy that you're feeling, whether it's anxiety or anger or just confusion, anything. Laughter's gonna break that barrier and give you a different perspective to look at it, and then maybe you can overcome it.
Of course, it can't be emphasized enough how important it is to watch our thoughts. We talk about that all the time. But in terms of shifting your reality, from a place that you're not happy with, there's many ways to do it. But it starts with believing that you can make the change, opening your heart, putting your hand on your heart, breathing, expanding, simply putting out the request. I need some help, and the synchronicities, the opportunities for assisting and shifting will show up, let alone asking your guides, and asking your higher self, and simply, again, tuning into your breath and, requesting assistance and watching your thoughts more than anything.
Definitely, and having the faith. Having enough faith in yourself, your higher power, your guides to actually do it, and to keep going through, because like a great teacher once said, with enough faith you can move mountains.
Indeed.
Yes.
And one other thing about this big cosmic joke or entertainment, the concept of the Yi Ching, it's there's what they came to, because they could tell your future based on these 64 codes, and they were 64 hexagrams, 6 lines each, and the broken line was yin and the solid line yang. So they came to the conclusion that our story is encoded in our DNA. So the thing is, to even know about Rainbow Body, or that you can be free from the story of the Matrix, it's encoded in your DNA, or you wouldn't even have heard this story. Now you have the potential and the possibility to have that full awareness, or the transformation of Rainbow Body or Gold Dragon Body. And one teacher once said that, we are actors in our own story. We wrote the script, we wrote the thing, and we went through the, amnesia programming. I call it amnesiatic fluid, of the waters of the divine. But the problem is that we put on that mask, we went into the story, and then we took it seriously. We believed we were the story. It's kind of like this teacher showed that, say you're an actor playing Hamlet, and it's like one of the most greatest tragedies. I mean, the horrible things happen to the guy, like his father's assassinated, his friend kills himself, all these bad, negative things, but because he knows it's a play and he's acting in it, he's having a beautiful time, having fun. But he said, if one moment he believed that was real, that story, that act he was playing was real, he would suffer greatly. But because he knows that it's just a story, he knows it's a play, so part of, this transformation, the shift, is to realize that we don't need to suffer, but the suffering is caused by the identification with our story, or the masks that we're wearing. Because in that pure awareness, that's why Zen Master Bankai said all things are perfectly resolved in the unborn mind of Buddha, in that pure awareness. So you can go into that pure awareness, you can awaken, but then come back into the realm, stay in the realm, and not be manipulated and controlled by the realm. You then can transmit anything you want into it that's, in your heart's desire, in the highest good for all of humanity.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. I don't know why I'm
Thank you. Shish you. That's thank you in Chinese. Shish you.
That's nice.
Okay.
This is an amazing edition of Deep Disclosure. We will be back next week with another fascinating installment. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining us today and sharing your wisdom. It's been a blast.
Oh, thank you both. I appreciate you inviting me here, and much gratitude for the work that both of you are doing. And maybe we'll do a live video in the future, for our channels, our YouTube channels, our websites, whatever, and I'd like to hear more of your stories and what's going on, with the quantum financial system. I've been following you all and, researching what you did. My time's so limited, I can't keep up with everything, but I think it would be great to maybe do like a live Zoom or something in the near future.
Sure.
Before or after your summit. And
after, and then
I'll be promoting your seventh seal until the 5th through my coming videos. I try to put out a video every